Greetings and God bless. I think it was last week, or maybe the week half ago. Colorado stopped, the police stopped a lady who had like a whole bunch of cocaine and fentanyl, and they dropped the charges. And I speculate that the cops are now probably selling those drugs to the public now, because Colorado is a drug state. People come here just to get high, and Colorado really likes that. So in the description box, I put the link to Texas. They found somebody who was bringing in a whole bunch of cocaine, and they dropped the charges. And for whatever reason, like the lady's claiming she didn't know it was there, but this is twice in like a week and a half that people are bringing in drugs and charges are being dropped. This seems like a trend. And I mean, like, I don't even know what state is not corrupt. Uh, so it's not, it's kind of disappointing that it's Texas. Who's going to be the next one? Florida, like the last bastion for some type of freedom and constitutionality or whatever. And also, these are the stories that actually make the news. Some states have really terrible statistics, and they're accurate or whatever. In some states, there are no statistics at all, or they are artificially low or high, depending on what kind of tourism or relocation they want for that state. So, for instance, when I was in Montana and Missoula, it was the highest for suicide. But if you went to their website, the city of Missoula, the link to look up that kind of thing was broken. So cities will hide the data, and they will also manipulate the data so it's never made public. So, on one hand, you hear really bad things about what's going on in Detroit or what's going on in Chicago or whatever, but the fact that the information is actually getting out there, the fact that the truth is being made available, actually, to me, I actually trust that state or whoever's in charge. I trust it more if they're willing to tell you the specifics of how bad it is. But when they're such liars and erasers, like Montana, if you look at human trafficking maps, it all like they all seem to stop like at like North and South Dakota or something like that, and then there's absolutely nothing. Montana is a border state with Canada. Montana has a Freemasonic history. There's very growing Church of Satan membership in Montana. There's a lot of witchcraft covens, a lot of witchcraft covens in Montana. And so, what do these satanic groups do? They have their pagan holidays, their human sacrifice holidays. And how do they get their victims? It's human trafficking. And I mean, I guess it's all like all kidnapping is human trafficking. But you look at these human trafficking maps and you'll see a lot of things like going on the East Coast or Florida, every deep state um, pit stop. There's always human trafficking there, Denver and whatnot. But somehow magically there's nothing in Montana. Even though Montana is a huge state, it's a border state, it's an occult state. There's tons of like evil, seriously demonized stuff going on in Montana. So, anyways, what I'm saying is I trust the states that are allowing you to see the bad news, hear the bad news. It's disappointing, but I think I'd rather know what I'm getting into rather than this whitewashed, secretive, kind of nonsense. Or it's not even nonsense. It's just like where the evil is so bad that just everything's without a trace. Children disappear without a trace. People are murdered without a trace. Like I think that's worse than you know murders are up in 200%. By 200% in Chicago. Yes, horrible and tragic as it is. At least the problem is clear and obvious, and when there's a problem, you can begin to address it. Not that it seems to be addressed, but when there's no mention of it, it's like incest. It's like a dysfunctional family. It's like a very toxic family where you're not allowed to feel, and you're not allowed to say, have boundaries, and you're not allowed to even describe the facts. Like when a state is like that, when a state is gaslighting you, and that's what it is. When states are erasing statistics, when states are pretending like such and such doesn't happen, or industries like medicine or schools or whatever, when they pretend, that's a type of psychological abuse. When a state or a school or an organization, scripture says we fight not flesh and blood but principalities. That's the amazing thing about the Bible. Like what I've learned is that the Bible is so accurate, because we're not just fighting like witches, covens, or satanic churches. We are fighting um, infrastructure, like our political infrastructure, our social infrastructure, the infrastructure of the trusted agents of the public good, from um, schools to hospitals to insurance companies to government. Uh, these are principalities. That's what a principality is something that is an organization, that's an authority. And the thing is, we personally aren't fighting it. It's really God who's doing all the work and giving us His grace to see and to do what needs to be done. Speaking up and trying to hold trusted agents of the public good accountable. So, anyways, yeah, it's kind of twisted, but I do prefer when a state just wears their heart on their sleeve. They've got all these problems, like LA. You know, it's really clear, and yeah, there's probably some gaslighting or secrets there, but you really kind of know, like, okay, LA's a mess, and San Francisco and Portland is a mess. But then there's places you never hear anything about, and you make assumptions. Like I moved, I used to be a new ager, and in 2012, I thought it was going to be, there was something called the 2012 Mayan prophecies, like it's end of the world kind of thing. So I decided I'd rather be in conservative territory during an apocalypse. And so I moved to Montana in 2013. And, I just assumed it was this stereotypical, you know, Western place. And it was so liberal. It was so left. It was so um, communist. Like they were collaborators. These were not liberals in the original sense of fairness and humanitarian and um, open-minded, like sincerely open-minded, like, hey, being open to Christians, being open to Republicans. Now, the leftists in Montana that I met were like fascists. They were totalitarians. I had become like, because in the past, when I was in San Francisco or California or on the East Coast, people were liberal, and they knew that they needed to have an open mind about the very thing that they despised, and just to have a good world, just to um, like just to be fair in the name of karma, if anything. And when I got a membership at the Peace Center, because I'm just used to these little, I was used to these little liberal, community center things, um, and they were fascists. They were totalitarians. I because I was a true liberal. I was like, what's the Constitution about? Like somebody gave a presentation at the library, and I was like, I have no idea what the Constitution's about. And I just figured it was just some old document or whatever. So, anyways, I got a copy of this DVD, and I was like, hey, I'm just going to show it at the Peace Center. And it's so interesting how people give such a hard time about reviewing boring documentation. Like, anyway, so people, they canceled their membership because I was showing this video, and the Peace Center kept trying to shut me down from showing this series. And it was just minutia, like, and it was very important stuff, but it wasn't like we hate liberals and we hate the Peace Center, or it wasn't like we hate minorities. It wasn't like that at all. It was just like, hey, let's look through this, let's look at these points in a document. um you know and and all these none of these liberals would take a look. None of these liberals, I mean, one did, and she was just like a spy. She wasn't even like, she looked deranged. I could see something in somebody's eyes, like this anger, this wanting to strike out, if you just give them a chance or something. And I was a liberal, I was a new ager, so I was just like, and I was freaked out by this one lady. But there's like not sincere liberals in the full sense of the word, that were there. And like, they were worse than liberals in really liberal cities like San Francisco and Portland. Like, that was the weirdest thing, is like, when you're in provincial areas like Montana or South Dakota or something like that, and I assume maybe Kentucky, Oklahoma, or Missouri, that the liberals there are the worst kind of liberals. Like, they're not really liberals. These are totalitarian leftist Marxists. Whereas the liberals on the coasts are really like open-minded people. And I think because they've had to relocate, they've had to move, they've had to develop friendships and connections and network everything from scratch based on their merits. But when you're in the heartland where people have inherited their parents' house and their grandparents' house, and they haven't really had to relocate and um, compete based on their merits, because these people don't have to compete. They've inherited all this property. They're selling property for hundreds of thousands of dollars every whatever years, and so they have so much luxury. They have just so many resources available to them. And these insular liberal or leftist Marxist strongholds, it's based on your pedigree. Like, they only like you if you're like a fourth generation or third generation local. Whereas, if you're in on the coasts, there's just always somebody moving from other countries or other parts of the nation or other parts of the state. And the people who are, from there, like, grew up there, born there, they're a little like, people in California, they're like, I don't know any Californians that were born here. I'm the only one. And you would hear that, but you wouldn't hear the same loathing that people in Oregon had, in Montana, and just like everybody has against Californians. The thing is, and Oregonians, because a lot of people from Oregon have left due to the craziness going on. But these people who hate Californians and Oregonians and just leftists, they still take their money. That's the thing. The only reason why Californians have invaded everywhere is because the local was greedy. The local's like, oh, I'm gonna sell this house that my neighbors could only afford 250,000. I'm gonna sell it for a million because this Californian will buy it. So all of you conservatives that hate Californians invading and turning your state purple or your city purple, Like all of you who are so greedy, because that's what I noticed too. Is just like these so-called Christian conservative, liberty-minded people, like they're still so greedy. Like you need to have your area a place that people like you can afford, or people that you want to work in the area can afford. But no, people are like doing, they're doing Airbnb and, renting rooms for $300 a day during like the festival season or something like that. And so you guys, all of you guys deserve this liberal infiltration because you're being so greedy, and you're just taking all this blood money. That's what I think. Because you're making it like, you conservatives who are greedy and just like, oh, I just got to have my money so I can, I don't know what you guys are doing. Because how much money do you really need? Um, like, are you sending 10 kids to college and making sure all 10 have cars with the best computer equipment? I mean, anyway, yeah, you guys are just getting what you deserve, and and you've been doing it a long time. Um, so anyway, yeah, it's bad news that it seems like different states, whether it's a red state or a blue state, they're letting drug dealers go free when there's major amounts of drugs found in their car. And I mean, if those people are innocent, they should go free. Charges should be dropped. But it is a strange thing that this seems to be happening, and it seems like it's Mexican ladies who are delivering this stuff. And we have open borders, and uh, the current coup is informing illegals. Like, I think it should be looked into, are these illegals? Because with illegals comes human trafficking and drug trafficking. And 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 at least I saw the picture of one person. Take a look yourself in the at the link that I put in the description box, because she kind of looks like she would be somebody involved. I mean, of course, that is no case, but um, you know, like, so I'm just curious how much more of this will occur. But on the other hand, it is good to know at least that we know what's going on. Um, and I'd rather know the bad thing that's going on rather than being gaslit and everything being covered up and having absolutely no idea. So, anyways, what do you guys think? God bless.